Most people would not think of Reno as a film production mecca, but for those in the film production industry, Reno is becoming an increasingly attractive place to shoot. Today, the crew and I went down to the River Room to talk with someone who knows the film industry well, and in particular, how easy it is to produce films in Reno. Emily Skyle-Golden is a filmmaker living in Reno. She's also the executive director of the Cordillera International Film Festival, and she's my friend.
I love day drinking. Is it wrong that it's, you know?
Well, no one knows it's day.
Throw up a little background.
It's just like,
no one knows it's 10 a.m.
It's 2 p.m. I don't drink at least until noon.
Do you think the wine tastes better in the day?
I think it tastes better when it's poured.
Yeah, I agree.
Pretty good
nice.
when it's poured.
You know, it's interesting. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time anyway, just about the whole experience that I had with Me Too and the being a part of 10 Syllables.
Oh, yeah.
It was just really like, I don't think that I really understood how impactful that movie was. It's almost like it hits you in stages.
Absolutely. I think it started with just the writing of it and the women who shared their stories with us, and that impacted my world pretty profoundly, and anyone that got involved at an early stage. And then you had the people that were cast that had to be in the scenes that represented some pretty tough situations, and they were impacted again. And then the rest of the cast, everyone that was brought in, you were a pretty significant part of the messaging of the film. So yeah, and now the next level of impact is watching people watch it and having it land in their world as a message.
Take us back to you writing the piece.
So I used to do news, and so I had been asked to follow the Brock Turner trial by an advocacy group. And when I was doing the research, all of the titles were things like star athlete with promising future, you know, and then she was described as drunk, female, or intoxicated, unconscious woman. Nothing positive about her, and with him, nothing negative about him, only positive. So it's kind of infuriating. And then the victim statement saying that she had basically been boiled down to nothing but 10 syllables was pretty profound and pretty upsetting. And it inspired me to take a departure of what I normally write, which is comedy. Like everything I do is funny and rom-com and like cheesy Christmas movies for networks and stuff. And for this, I went with drama and told a story. It took me personally about 25 years to tell. So,
do you think that you originally chose it as a documentary and then realized it needed to be in a film because there was a personal connection?
Well, it was going to be a documentary because I wanted just to give people a voice. And so, unfortunately and fortunately, when I put out a call, I thought I'd have 10 women share their stories. We had 528 women come forward that said they wanted to be part of it. Well, that knocked it out of being a documentary, or it would be the world's longest documentary, and I wouldn't be able to honor all of them and all of their journeys. And for some reason, I didn't want to tell somebody, we're not covering your message. That didn't feel right. So I tried to come up with a creative way of honoring all of them, and that's how the mattress became such a huge part of the film itself, and the messages that women were putting. They're claiming back their mattress, if you will, and sharing their stories on them.
I think that's one of the most powerful scenes in the movie, is when the mattresses start arriving and they have the messages that are written on them. My character, very small role, but had such a huge impact on how I felt from the moment I filmed that segment to where I am today, because it really opened my eyes just being on the set and being with that story, but also saying to the reporter as my activist character, you know, her hashtag Me Too will now be our hashtag No More. It was so powerful for me to say that, because it made me really start to think about the things that had happened to me as a victim. That, and quite honestly, that you didn't realize. I didn't realize I had been a victim of sexual assault, because it's not right in our culture to, oh, that happened. It didn't really happen this way.
Right, or you put yourself in that situation, so you're not a victim. Yeah, that's a sad mentality. And I guess for people who haven't seen the film, that might be watching, it's one woman's journey. The justice system fails her. She's judged, and she makes the choice when she sees the person who attacked her, assaulted her. Actually, those are pretty words. He rapes her when she's unconscious. So it's a pretty, the scene itself, watching, we did it as subtly as possible, but we wanted to make sure it was clear what occurred. She decides to take things into her own hands and kind of has this irrational moment and decides to literally grab his mattress, and she drags it through a crowded frat party and ends up on the grass with this mattress and everybody around her staring at her, and realizes, well, I've done this, I'm going to commit. So she writes on the mattress, on October 27th, I was raped on this mattress. I have a voice. I will be heard. I'm a victim no more. And so when you talk about the most impactful part for you is when all these other women see what she's doing and they start writing their messages. And your character led the support group that she quit going to.
Right.
So you play such an important role, and there are so many women who play in real life that important role of talk about it. You have a voice. This did happen to you. You don't have to live your life as a victim, but you can claim what occurred to you and be heard. And then that's the easier path of healing. So
you are a filmmaker making films in Reno.
Yeah.
What is it like to make a film in Reno?
So my background is in other larger cities where film is incredibly difficult to make. So when I first put out postings looking for cast and crew, the response was insane. We had a cast and crew for my very first film, was a romantic comedy called Dear George. We had an unbelievable amount of people audition. We had a cast and crew of over 300, and everyone donated their time, and that doesn't happen in other cities. That Reno has been magical at embracing, and what people don't understand is there's so much talent, right? We acknowledge
Yes.
the dance scene here, we acknowledge the sculpture scene and the art scene. I mean, look what we accomplish in the Burning Man trace of talent that comes through. But there are filmmakers here with great equipment and great stories to tell. And I was lucky enough to convince a lot of them to join forces with little to no budget at all. Most of our budget was like burritos and permits and insurance. So to me, it is, I want to tell everyone about Reno, but also I'm like, I don't want to tell everybody because then the locations will be hard to get and it'll become more challenging.
Well,
so.
and you had a challenge with the Dear George. You got a 747 donated.
Yeah.
That's pretty over the top. And I tell that story to a lot of people and they're like, nah. I'm like, no, yeah, she did.
Part of that was the Reno Tahoe, the international the airport here was incredible. They literally we did pay a small that was one of the permit fees we paid, but literally nothing. It was just such a nominal fee. And they shut down a terminal at the airport for us. And with that, then we were able to approach an airlines whose name we're not supposed to say, but it's probably pretty easy to guess if you're from Reno who it was. But they said, all right, you've got it for 6 hours. It's there overnight. The cleaning crew's coming in at this time, so get in and get out, and all we had to do was pay for the gentleman that turned on the lights and everything. So again, those aren't things that you find community support for in larger cities. And
do you feel that the community as a whole supports you as a filmmaker?
I think in the beginning with Dear George, people didn't know how to take me. They were like, yeah, she says she's going to get a plane at an airport and she's going to shut down city streets and she's got a budget of $5,000. They're like, she's crazy. It's never going to happen. So they were like, sure, we'll do it. Just, when you get those things. And then I'm like, I got them. And here's the contracts, here's the dates, and they went, oh God, we have to help her now. But once Dear George was finished, and it actually did very well, I was very fortunate to have such a great first experience with the film on the festival circuit and eventually distribution with it, that when I did No More, which is now 10 Syllables, it went from the documentary to a full narrative, it was actually very easy. In fact, we had more people that wanted to be part of it than we could even accommodate. And I mean, we had 75 mattresses donated, and all these artists that took the time for the women who shared their stories that couldn't write or draw what they wanted. We had artists team up with them to help them do it, and then in the movie they got to just trace their message and be on camera. So at the premiere, we had over 1,400 people come to a movie premiere that was 15 minutes long.
Were you nervous as a filmmaker to be tackling such a difficult topic? I mean, for example, there was another actress, a well-known actress, who was going to play my role. I was literally called in at the last minute.
Yeah.
And she was told by her agent, probably shouldn't do this right now.
Yeah.
How is that for you? You're trying to become this amazing filmmaker on a time where you're tackling a topic that a lot of people don't want to deal with.
They didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And I still love that actress. I hope that she'll be in another film with me. But yeah, it was sad. So I'm like, wait a minute, you have a choice to be part of something that's saying something. And how come you don't want to be on that side of things? But you know, her judgment, her choice is her choice, and I respect it, obviously. But there was some challenges. It was also a really disruptful thing for a lot of people. The women who shared their stories, the women who came on set, people who didn't share their stories but just wanted to be an extra. You know, if they were an extra on Dear George, they saw Feathers and Funny. If they were on an extra here, they saw and heard a lot of very difficult things. So we had counselors on set. That's not something you normally have to think about, but we had caregivers and organizations on set at all times so that anyone who needed somebody to talk to. So that was one element of filming that I've never had to worry about before.
Well, and I also thought it was interesting for those of you who are not from Northern Nevada, we literally filmed and we had a beautiful sunny day, and then it was windy, and then the snow came, and then it rained, and it was like we had all of the seasons of Northern Nevada in one day.
In one day.
It was so bizarre.
Awful.
It was like, it was a struggle there as well, but it was such an amazing experience. You know, you had a lot of other local filmmakers that were on the set with you that worked with you.
We all came together, and like Tyler Bournes is the DP on the project and a producer and also just an editor. I mean, he's everything. I figuratively and literally couldn't do it without him. And so he was a huge part of the process. But we also had a lot of the Reno Film Collective folks, which is an organization that has been trying to gather up and get known a little bit better without the community, just putting out film after film. They write and film and shoot in one day and in just a matter of hours, and just to keep learning and to keep growing. So it's, you know, there's a lot of the film community on the set.
I just love that the independent film community is so embraced in Northern Nevada, and I see it growing continuously. What would you say to writers and directors that are, you know, maybe they live in Northern Nevada and they're like, can I do this?
Yeah.
What would your words to them be?
Yes, you can. Pick up something and start shooting. And as you get better, get a bigger camera and start shooting. And as you get better, get a bigger script and start shooting. There is so much talent out there. You have some talented, I mean, known and established. Some of the credentials on the people just that even do this show with you are incredible. So there's always somebody that's able to help. And maybe it always won't be donated time. I think I've been very fortunate. I'm sure if I tried again, people are like, yeah, I'll raise a little more money, Emily. The only challenge in the community is raising money for film, because most short films don't end up making a profit. An investor is very rarely going to get a return. So if someone's making a donation to your project, they're not, you know, all they're getting is to support something and a shout out or a red carpet premiere, you know.
Dear George has been picked up. There's a really good chance this could be made into a feature film.
Yeah, it won what's called the Hollywood Player Competition in Orlando. So it won a $500,000, what's called a first look contract. And at first I thought I won $500,000, so I was like, my life has changed. That's not what that means. It is not what it means. I didn't win it like a dime. I didn't win a dime.
$1.
Yeah, I didn't even win a dime. But I won bragging rights. But what that does is that the studios that sponsored that, if you choose to have them film it, it starts the fund for making the movie, and the script got officially optioned. And again, when that happened, I was like, yes, this is the thing. No, it's not. It takes a long time. They have to find cast. But it was it's amazing to see a short film go through the process, get distribution just as the short film, and now it's landed a feature film deal. So it's just a matter of aligning the cast, and I'm still fighting to have them use local cast. So,
do you see that happening with 10 Syllables? I mean, you are picking up awards like no tomorrow. Like every time I see you, it's another award. I'm so proud of you and proud of the community for putting out such an important piece. I'm so honored that I was able to be a part of it. It was a life-changing experience. Do you want it to be made into like a longer feature film?
I've said from the beginning that I didn't, because I didn't want it to turn into a bad movie of the week, which I think it could in the wrong hands. But with the response that we've had, so many people want it to be a feature that we decided that we should, if we keep it in-house and we've raised the funds ourselves and we're able to control the way that the topic is shown, the way that the assault is actually shown, then yes, it is. If there's enough interest and funding available, then we think it's something that could have an even bigger impact on a larger scale.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for introducing us to the next stage of filmmaking. It's really happening right here in Northern Nevada.
There's so many amazing filmmakers.
And I also want to just say, for tackling a very difficult subject and doing it with such grace and dignity and really allowing so many women an opportunity to have a voice, to really, truly give them what they've always wanted. And I think that all of us who've had some sort of sexual assault, sexual harassment, or sexual violence, if you've experienced that, just being able to have a voice so that you can hopefully have a hashtag no more is really what I'm so honored that I'm a part of something that could really change the way we respond to sexual violence and how we change it from here on forward.
Yeah, our goal was just to give people a voice and to have them start talking. And I think every time the film is shown, I end up being kind of like on a receiving line at the end of the screening, and women sadly sharing their stories with me. So it definitely gets the conversation going. And if that's all that it accomplishes, that's amazing. But if it heals anyone, then that's even more amazing.
Cheers to you. Thank you for all that you've done for our community, Emily, and thank you for taking filmmaking to the next stage.
Thank you.